Johnson, and this is focused on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, mountain back to Atlantic Ocean, over me hills to Country, to educate, elevate, and promote. Affairs, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to FOL Justice Forum on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jayweh, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition, we're going to be looking at the case that is going on in Monrovia. That is, former Speaker Jayweh and other lawmakers. They were arrested. They were first called for questioning at the Liberia National Police Headquarters, question later detained. And their charges, arson, and others. That's what we're going to be talking about tonight. I have with me from the legal side, Atty. Wonderr Freeman. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Dennis. It's good to be here.
And we're going to be looking at this case from the legal side, or the law enforcement side, and also the law side here. Let me welcome another lawyer, Attorney James N. Jensen. Welcome. And he's the CEO of 2A Radio Network. Welcome, Attorney Jensen.
Thank you so much, John. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Let me also welcome the legal counsel, the senior counsel, Councilor Frederick Jayweh. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dennis. I'm happy to be here.
Last and definitely not the least is on the line is Sergeant Alfred Johnson, who is joining us on the phone. Welcome, Sergeant.
Thank you, Dennis. It's no longer Sergeant. I'm a lieutenant now.
Congratulations. Okay. You see? Congratulations, Lieutenant Alfred Johnson from Bannerman Oldfield. And good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you.
The case we're going to talk today are from two sides, the law enforcement side and the legal side. So let me play you something from the law enforcement, the arrest. I just want to show you what happened.
The national chairperson has been beaten. The national chairperson.
Also, and that was after the since the issue happened, they had other people in jail. Yesterday now, they called in the lawmakers and they were sent to jail. Here, I want you to take a listen to the charges.
Specifically, Honorable Jonathan Funati Kofa, Honorable Dixie Sibo, Honorable Abu Kamara, and Honorable Jacob C. Debbie. They played significant roles in facilitating and supporting the criminal acts executed by the previously charged suspect. Honorable Kofa, former Speaker of the House of Representatives, used his official office and staff, particularly as Chief of Maintenance, Thomas Etheridge to coordinate sabotage efforts from as early as November 2024. Etheridge, who has been charged, worked directly with Honorable Kofa's office and cited instructions from higher authorities in his coordination efforts. He also rated his connections and over in our collection referenced by his authority, from above, order from above, order from the chief, back and forth in all of his coordination. Honorable Kofa rule is being, his role in this issue is being investigated on the charges of criminal conspiracy due to credible links suggesting that he was strategically involved in orchestrating the broader plan to obstruct legislative process and damage the national infrastructure. Charged with the following, as such, he has been charged with the following under the revised penal code: arson, criminal mischief, reckless endangering another person, criminal attempt to commit murder, criminal facilitation, criminal solicitation, and criminal conspiracy. Honorable Abu Kamara, District 15, Montserrado County, and Honorable Jacob C. Debbie, District 3, Grand Jeddah County, were reportedly present at multiple planning meetings and facilitated logistical support, including coordination with actors inside and outside of the Capitol building. Their involvement underscores a deeper level of political motivation and conspiracy behind what was initially perceived as an isolated act of vandalism. The both are hereby charged under the revised Penal Code of Liberia with arson, criminal mischief, reckless endangering another person, criminal attempt to commit murder, criminal facilitation, criminal solicitation, and criminal conspiracy. Honorable Dixon W. Siebel, District 16, Montserrado County, was identified through financial transactions and witness testimony as a key financier. Funds originating from his office were allegedly dispersed to conspirators during a clandestine meeting in Jalatan, December 17, one day before the main attack. He also...
All right, you get the point. I don't even know where to start, but Lieutenant Alfred, I want you to start with me on what you know about this case from the arresting and the detaining part of it before we get to the lawyer.
I mean, so far, first of all, thank you for the opportunity. It's always good to have this kind of discussion. Are you guys hearing me?
Yes, sir.
All right. It's always good to have these kind of discussions when it comes to Liberia. To jump into the question, the case we know has been going on since December of last year, I believe. And it's an ongoing case. People have been charged. People have been arrested, have been charged. And now the high-profile individuals who people were expecting to be charged have been charged. The problem with this, I shouldn't say problem, the issue here is not about, like we always say, it is not about what you know, it's what you can prove. So to charge somebody, you need to be the level of proof needed is probable cause to avoid being academic in this discussion. But now when you go to trial, proof beyond reasonable doubt is required. And some of the evidence that was presented, when you look at the new charges or the amended charges, they're not different from the previous ones. So if you are charging Honorable Kofa with murder, attempted murder, and things like that, it raises question about based on what. But again, the lawyers will have to have that conversation. But if all these things are being charged, they should have enough evidence for that. These are serious charges. These are charges that have to be proven beyond reasonable doubt. That means you have to gather enough evidence. And like I said before, when this whole thing started, based on what I saw, nothing was presented that showed some sort of physical connection to the scene from the previous individuals. Nothing has been said so far as it relates to Kofa and listening to all these people that also show some sort of physical connection. Now, I want to see the charge sheet. Hopefully they bring that out, the indictment and things like that, and then we can go from there to see the details. So they like to say the devil is in the details. So when we see the details, then we can be able to compare it with the evidence, the evidence gathering process, and what we think based on our understanding of the criminal justice process from a law enforcement perspective.
Thank you. Councillor Jayweh, what happened? What happened yesterday? Brief the case.
I know yesterday I saw Councillor Kofa and some other, I saw Dixon Sibo, and I think there were about 7 of them that I saw. I understand they were invited at the police station. And Councillor Kofa interestingly had a toothbrush in his hand. And one of the journalists asked him, "Why are you taking toothbrush with you?" And he said, "Well, I'm taking my toothbrush along." But my understanding is that they were invited and they kept them at the police station at the headquarters until I guess when the court was closed. Then one of the police officials came and announced that they were all ordered arrested, except for I think 2 people or 3 people who were released, who were not charged. But the RG, after charging Councillor Kofa, Priscilla Kofa, I understand, and I think 3 other people. They are currently in jail at the police headquarters. I understand they will be taken to the court, the Monrovia City Court, on Monday to be formally for the state to get rid of arrest, to be served on them to take up the matter from them.
Thank you. Attorney Freeman, what is the purpose of sending them to jail? What is the police saying for which? Because, I mean, in my limited knowledge on law, you got 3 parts, right? The law enforcement will grab them, then the court will judge them, and then correction. So can the police send people to jail? Or why are they holding them? What the police say they're holding them for?
Well, it seems to me just a politicization of the law enforcement, because the police have a right to charge and all of that, but they are supposed to like fast track these people to court so that the decision as to whether they will be billed or not billed will be a decision to be made by the judge. But like most of the time in my commentary on law enforcement in Liberia, I say that it's highly politicized, because first thing, arson is a bailable offense. That's 1. 2, the people in question are local politicians. You're not dealing with drug law or something like that. People who could escape. Those are people who will go to the Capitol Building. So, I mean, you can charge them, allow the lawyers to sign for them, or let them file a bond in keeping with law, whatever. But if you politicize it, that is when you want to set a trap, arrest them on Friday. First thing we will call them for a conference. Then when they get there, then a conference turns to investigation. Then the investigation turns to charges. Then the next thing you know, you lock them up. And then because it's the weekend, they have no other option but to stay in jail. And that is because some politicians in the mansion or in the Capitol Building called them and told them what to do. That's the problem with the justice process in Liberia.
Is that legal?
Well, it's totally unlawful, but because you're not supposed to enforce the law discriminatory, you are supposed to enforce the law even-handed. But if you follow the behavior of the police, even when this regime was not in power, the police was chasing Yeke, Costa, and any other person who says anything about CDC. So that's time CDC was the ruling party. CDC is no longer the ruling party. United Party is the ruling party now, and United Party issue instruction to them. But you are supposed to be even-handed with the prosecution of people. So you can't just set up ambush, call people for maybe conference or whatever it is, then charge them, then lock them off Friday evening so that they can't have opportunity to, file for bail or have the lawyer serve for them, stuff like that, or personal reconnaissance, those kinds of things. I don't know, but I just feel it's a lot more to do with politics than law.
Attorney Jensen, so you call people, for this and that, and we'll get to the case, but the process leading to the incarceration, is that justified? Can the police do that?
Liberia is becoming, I don't know what I should say, lawless or whatever. The Liberia National Police has no color of right to arrest a lawmaker in the first place. There is no legislator that should be arrested and detained while they are in session, while they're going to session, while they are returning from session. Now, there's a difference between session and sitting. Those are all legislative words. Sitting is the day-to-day activities where they go in there and they enter the cabinet building to have their day work. Session is when they return from their vacation. So throughout, when the lawmaker is in his house, he's in session. When the lawmaker is in the street, he's in session. When the lawmaker is in the store doing whatever he's doing, he's in session. The Constitution says he is not to be arrested, neither detained. I think that's Article 42 of the Liberian Constitution provides for that. So to see the Liberian National Police, I believe with the knowledge of the executive branch, the president of Liberia, the fact that he even heard that a lawmaker or lawmakers have been arrested, he should have arrested the situation. There are separate branches of government. Now we understand the policy that's going on, right? All started with the removal of speaker and all of those stuff. More so, to arrest this lawmaker and decide to put them behind bars during the weekend. Those were all calculated attempts by the leadership of the executive, to include that of the police. Now, what do you do with lawmakers who, assuming and not admitting that they committed this crime? Arson is not one of those crimes that is listed by the Constitution for which any of these people is supposed to go to jail. But let us assume that they did what is being alleged. What are the best way to go about it in a democratic society? I believe, in my opinion, I worked at the Capitol building for a very long time, and I know for certain that lawmakers themselves, even those who think otherwise of Kofa and everybody, they themselves should be defending the Constitution that say they are not supposed to be arrested, except for grave crimes, right? Like felony, felony, and he's talking about murder and that kind of stuff. We had a situation before in Liberia. So if you arrested those people and it was late, that's a Friday, you kept them for the whole day until late Friday evening. Why did you keep them in the first place? Right? There's something in the Constitution that says the personal reconnaissance of these people, speaker or former speaker, legislator, he represents over 40,000 people of Liberia, each of them. So their personal reconnaissance should not have allowed them to go to jail. Are they at the flat risk? No, they are not. So you see, all of this situation that's happening in Liberia, it doesn't speak good of the country. I don't know Kofa from anywhere. I'm not his fan. But what happens to a legislator today will happen to a legislator tomorrow. Do we support this kind of attitude in a democratic society? No, it shouldn't be allowed. We think as they want to go ahead with the case, but the first step they have taken. I listened to, I don't know, police director, whatever he was, that were reading the charges. In some of his statements, talking about alleged, and some of the things he's talking about, they got the suspect, and only that Kofa and other people use their offices and other things to do whatever that's happened. They even putting murder into the charges. You can see that all of this they are frivolous charges. But that is left with the lawyers, right? The police has the right to charge anybody if you suspect anything. But the Constitution specifically say you don't. These people, while going to session, returning from session, you are not supposed to arrest them, neither detain them. So what do you do as a police director? If you had a kind of case before, you must have consultation with the executive, the chief executive, and let you say, okay, you're going to lock them up. Was that the case? We have no idea about that. But as we go ahead, we might explain further into whatever this matter is about.
You raise a very important point that I want the other lawyers to speak to. That is a lawmaker in session. Because what I think session is whether you are attending a formal meeting of the legislature, either physically or virtually, remotely, or you are performing duties as a lawmaker. Other than that, if you are home sleeping, I never thought that that's considered in session. Councillor Jayweh, what do you think?
In session. Okay. Yeah,
I think we need to correct something here. Lawmakers are not immune from arrest. When they are in session and conducting their normal activity and duties, statements they make on the floor during their presentation, argument, addressing issue, they cannot be held accountable for those statements. But they can be arrested for merely for what the law referred to as breach of the peace.
Right. Let's define session for what does in session mean?
They are daily when they are involved with the daily activity. Are
they in session on Saturday and Sunday?
No, they are not.
Are they in session on Friday when they are not going to? Because we know that they sit according to Tuesday and Thursday they go to the Capitol building. So
Lord, let me
Friday are they in session?
Let me just add, whether they are in session or not in session, if it is alleged that any one of them committed a breach of the peace,
that's
let alone the crime of arson, they can be arrested
for arson if they are in session.
Breach of the peace, why in session, out of session, breach of the peace, something that relate not to their day-to-day duty, they can be arrested for it. As simple as breach of the peace. Arson, which is a felony of the first degree, can be second degree depending upon the circumstances. But in this case, it's a felony of the first degree. They can be arrested. They can be taken before the police. They can be investigated. They can be charged, and they can be sent to court. What is concerning to me is not the arrest. What is concerning to me is that why is the LMP holding Councillor Cllr and the 4 other representatives at the police station after the RG has stood up and declared that they are charged with several crimes and arrested? My understanding is that the RG and others who are advising him are arguing that, hey, you have 48 hours to hold these people. So keep them here until Monday morning and take them to the court. The RG, the entire police, the security forces, after Councillor Cllr and others were charged, lacked jurisdiction to hold them in the police cell. They must have immediately forwarded them to the court. The only way they can hold them there if they have not charged them, but they have formally charged them. Based upon that, they should be forwarded to court and a writ of arrest issued on them with their rights read to them, and they can file a bail bond, or they can be allowed to go home based upon the court recognizing them through the request of the lawyers. Other than that, they're being kept from Friday to today to Monday. It's an illegal act. But let me add before anyone can, before I conclude, let me just add here. Knowing the Liberia legal system and the political system, Councillor Cllr and his colleagues' lawyer did not do them justice. I thought they would have been able to divide themselves into 2 columns. One column working directly with the Saki court to either prepare a petition for a writ of habeas corpus, understanding that the objective of inviting their client to the police station would have led to they being detained illegally. I'm saying they are detained illegally. Why? Because they were charged, they should have been forwarded to court.
Thank you. And before I bring you in, Anthony Freeman, let me read Article 42. No member of the Senate or House of Representatives shall be arrested, detained, prosecuted, or tried as a result of opinion expressed or vote cast in the exercise of the function of his office. We put that one side. We continue.
Right.
Members shall be privileged from arrest while attending, going to, or returning from sessions of the legislature, except for treason, felony, or breach of the peace. All official acts done or performed and or statement made in the chambers of the legislature shall be privileged, and no legislator shall be held accountable or punishable therefore. Attorney Freeman.
Before you go to Freeman, can we resolve the issue? Can you read Article 32A? Let's go to the section. I understand it quickly and then move ahead. 32A.
2A radio.
32A says the legislature shall assemble in regular session once a year on the second working Monday in January.
Okay. Not that when they go to the Capitol building, that is called sitting. But once a year, they assemble in regulation. If you read further down, it tell you that the president has a rule upon certificate signed by the majority of those people, the president can extend the session that they end. So why that session, they should not be arrested.
So B said the president shall, on his own initiative or upon receipt of a certificate signed by at least 1/4 of the total membership of each house, and by proclamation extend a regular session of the legislature beyond the date for adjournment, or call a special extraordinary session of that body to discuss or act upon matters of national emergency and concern. So what does regular session mean? It means
regular session is
term.
Right. The regular session is the day-to-day activities. You know, like when they enter from January, when they open their regular session, it runs all the way. I don't know the timetable right now. I think when they enter from January, there's I think October or so, they go out there for break, for vacation. Why in that period of time? They don't have to be at the cabinet at their home. They are in session because our session has opened since January.
Let me ask you a question, yeah?
Yeah, thank you.
Let me create a scenario. Let's say Senator ABC, he's at a house and he beat a wife. And then he get a car, he go into session. And just before he get to the Capitol building, he's arrested by the police. And he was on his way to session when he was arrested. What do you think?
That's a very good example. If I can be allowed to address that.
I mean
if they
the session thing is just a political thing that when in the Capitol building and you say something against.
Hold on, Attorney Jensen. Let Freeman come and then.
The session thing is just when you in the Capitol building and you say something, they don't want police to come there trying to arrest you and all of that. But if you beat your wife to the house and you go your way, you say, I'm going to a session. If the police grab you anywhere over there, they will arrest you because it's a crime. Article 11C, all persons are equal before the law. So the fact that you represent 40,000 persons doesn't give you any extra privilege. The only privilege is if you pick up that microphone in the Capitol building and you say things there, that is privilege. But every other crime under our penal law, if you commit it, you will be arrested and persecuted. And mind you, there was a senator from Magiri that was jailed for a long period of time. If you remember, I forgot. He committed murder. Fortunately, he didn't be a wife, but he was alleged to have committed murder. He was in jail for a long period. So I think we should pay attention. We shouldn't focus on this. We shouldn't focus on this going to session and coming from session. It's not very important for this discussion.
If I may,
go ahead.
Not to dwell on this, but I think, I mean, the articles read are very clear, except for felony and breach of the peace. So if somebody at their house and they're beating their wife, and that constitutes a breach of the peace. So the protection given to them by the Constitution does not apply there because now they breach the peace, beating their wife, breaching the peace. That's the first thing. And then the gravity of the assault could amount to felony. That's also another issue. So I think they can be arrested. It's just the fact that it has to be within the exceptions provided by the Constitution. But like Freeman said, the exceptions, I mean, not to sound like a lawyer, but I think the exception thing is more of protection of their freedom of speech and their ability to argue or debate on the floor than it is an issue of going out there and committing crimes.
Okay.
And they're claiming protection under the Constitution.
So let's move forward and let's move forward on the holding them, which Councillor Jayweh described as illegal. And all of you, it appears that we have a consensus here.
Yes, it's illegal because when you investigating somebody, when you bring that in, normally you have 48 hours to charge them. So you can detain them for 48 hours. But once you charge them, like the councilor said, once you charge them, it becomes a matter. The due process, I mean, the speedy trial clock starts. Once you charge them, their speedy trial clock starts. So now you have to present them before a court for preliminary and all the different things. The criminal justice process starts right there. Once you charge them, so they're not going to be in your custody anymore. Once you charge them, when we, like, take for example, if I bring somebody in, interview them, and see that, oh yeah, this is my suspect. When I was a detective, this is my suspect. Okay, I'm going to charge this person. Once I charge that person, I'm doing all my paperwork. I got my other detective helping me do the paperwork. Other person helping me call the Department of Corrections. I'm taking that person to jail because that person is no longer my responsibility in terms of transporting into the prison. But now it becomes an issue of the court. So their speedy trial clock starts, and I have to take them to court where they have to the jail, where they have to see the commissioner and go for preliminary hearing and all that. So if you charge them, you can't keep them in that place, and LMP keeping them there is a violation of that right.
And Lieutenant Johnson, you are here. So if you did that as a law enforcement officer, what happens? If I do that, and the person lawyer finds out, that's a complaint to my internal affairs department. And if internal affairs get a hold of it, they can go to they can take it to the administrative charging committee and investigate it and send it up to the administrative charging committee, and I could be charged based on the metrics provided by the state of Maryland. So I can be charged for violating somebody's right, but again, I have to, if I'm keeping somebody beyond when I charge them and I'm keeping them, I have to explain why I'm doing that. I have to have a reason, because everything has to happen for a reason. If I'm just keeping them because I want to be a foolish person to just disrespect their rights, that's a problem. But if maybe it's a snowstorm, I can't drive in the snow. My cruiser is not driving in the snow. Maybe the van is not available, or the car that needs to take us to this is not available. So there's a reason why you can keep them there. But equally so, you still have to inform the commissioner. That way the commissioner can come to the location or do some sort of phone hearing or something. But again, the key here is once you arrest them and charge them, their speedy trial clock starts, and in order for that right to not be violated, you have to take them to the jail right away. And Attorney Jensen, I mean, you can tell me we don't know these things, like the IG coma. Is that what you guys are telling me, that our police will know this and they still turn around and detain the people?
Then it's called daily bread. Daily bread.
Can I say something?
Yeah, because I don't understand.
The Labrador National Police should not arrest a lawmaker. There are procedural steps. There are reasons why these people are allowed. Let me check, Freeman. I know exactly what I'm saying, right? The Labrador National Police should not be in the business of arresting a legislator. There are equal branches of government. There are ways in which legislators deal with one another. The Roland situation that he was mentioning about.
Attorney Jensen, if a legislator go do armed robbery, what happens?
So what do you do? Well, let's assume, because we know in the first place a lawmaker should not do armed robbery, but let's assume a legislator did armed robbery. Why you think he should do? This is what I propose. This is what I think should happen in a democratic society. When committed an armed robbery and the facts are presented, the leadership of the legislature is written. The members of the legislature listen to me, you don't know what I'm talking about, Freeman. The members of the legislature take action on a legislator either suspending him so that he can go and face the law, or expel him from the legislature so that he can go and face the law. To say that every legislature, we just say, okay, legislature, you heard that you were beating a wife, then police go to the house to arrest him and come to the court. Every time there's a rule somewhere, they go, because those are all allegations. So just to think that the Constitution did not make mistake, the Freeman Constitution did not even think that you will send a very irresponsible person to the legislature. They thought very seriously that those who go to that place to work are responsible and honorable people. The word honorable means you're not going to see somebody and say, well, we arrest them and put them into jail. That's not the intent of a better democracy. The very intent is those you send over there. That's when you tell your people when to have election. When you're voting people to that house, that's the honorable house. The Constitution did not make a mistake. Article 42.
Let me ask you, then we can move forward. Attorney Freeman, Attorney Jensen, let me ask you one question. We move forward. What does breach of the peace mean? Breach of the peace. What constitutes that? Attorney Jensen. Breach of the peace. Yes.
Breach of the peace. I know where you're heading. Breach of the peace could be where there is an attempt on the part of the legislature to stop the peaceful. It could be a peaceful for the people. It could be anything that will stop the people from enjoying what the environment should be like to live as a normal human being.
Robbery.
Right?
No, breach of the peace can be small thing like
armed robbery. Say again.
It can be as low as disorderly conduct and as high as murder.
The breach of the peace in the Constitution. Those are the laws or the act that when committed, a legislator could be arrested. But what I'm telling you is that there's steps as to how a legislator can be arrested. So we can't have a lawless country. It doesn't mean that when you even get, let's say for example, Kofa, let us assume Kofa actually committed what is being alleged. And you have a legislator sitting. They know the circumstances. And the Liberal or the president, police wrote the president. The president will speak. These are what your member.
Attorney Jensen, there's a problem with your audio. Attorney Jensen, there's a problem with your audio.
Dennis, can I just add?
Yeah.
You asked a very important question as to whether the police or the police RG know of when you charge a defendant that he or she should be taken to court in a timely manner. My answer to that is that our entire police force, perhaps the entire security agency, including members of most of the lawyers at the Ministry of Justice, do not understand and have not tested the idea of a defendant being charged and his right to be taken to court after that defendant is charged. Every member of most of the prosecutors that I have talked to in Liberia, including the police that I know, higher police people, they believe that when they arrest you and charge you, they can keep you for until 48 hours come and pass before they take you to court. That is not the law. The Constitution does not support them to keeping someone after he is charged. While the investigation is going on, the police can keep the accused in its custody if it chooses to do that, and the 48 hour can commence to run while the investigation going on. Even when the 48 hours is done, and they still have investigate, they still need to continue with the investigation. They can go to court and ask the court to grant them 72 hours to continue with the investigation. But this is not after the defendants are charged and then they are placed into prison. The police doesn't understand that the constitutional provision that says that any defendant arrested and detained must be charged within 48 hours. It didn't say you should keep them after they are charged and carry them to court 2 days thereafter or 3 days thereafter. So the police are wrong. Your question is what happened next? I would believe if I wanted the counsel for Counsel Kofa and the rest of them, we will sue the government of Liberia.
Of course.
Because the rights of the defendants are violated. knowingly violated.
Yep. And let's if I may,
Yeah.
Jayweh, let's be honest here, right? Again, the argument about whether a lawmaker can be arrested or not is not an argument, because a lawmaker can be arrested based on all these charges. Those are things that a lawmaker can be arrested on. But the issue here is the manner in which these guys were arrested gives the level of political involvement that makes it concern. It makes it people question, well, is this actually intended to bring people to justice? Because what happened at the Capitol building was wrong. Let's be honest, it's wrong. Nothing of such nature has happened at that place for 14 years. For it to happen is wrong. We want people who did that to be brought to justice. But once you engage in politics, you bring politics into this issue, that's a problem. You call them in under the pretense that you want to interview them. You kept them there for hours. It was intentional. You kept them there for hours. Then when the court closed, you arrested them. Then you say when they go to Salt Beach, that's when their pre-trial detention starts. No, the pre-trial detention starts once you arrest them. So all these things, like Councilor Jayweh said, I'm quite sure Kofa, as a learned lawyer, is aware of these things, and his team is allowing it to happen for the mistakes to happen for them to be able to have a stronger case. Because sometimes you let people to hang themselves, and the Liberian National Police is hanging themselves. At the end of the day, there may be a problem. And with all these charges, these are grave charges that require a level of proof that nothing I've seen so far indicate that LMP can produce that level of proof. But again, we're not privy to the evidence they have. But so far, so good. We'll see.
Good. And we'll go to the evidence that's being presented. But just to put this to rest, I think, Councilor Attorney Jensen, you are right. You cannot arrest a lawmaker, but there are instances, and they listed, one of it means the breach of the peace. So this breach of peace, if we define it, and I learned it from you, I'm so smart, so your talk, I can write it down. It's a breach of the peace, also known as disturbing the peace, is a legal term that refers to behavior that disrupt public order and safety. It can include actions such as fighting, causing excessive noise, or engaging in unruly public behavior that breaks another person's right to peace and tranquility. So is that clear? And so I believe arson, beating your wife, has the attorney said, or even going there and doing some of the things that Yeket does, that constitute breach of the peace, and it can be arrested. So let's move on from that argument and come to what they are charging them for.
Before you go, okay. Right? And the right, if you want to proceed, you can proceed. Right?
Internet is bad.
But the rights of the Constitution of Liberia. Say again?
Your audio, you remember during the start of the show, I was telling you.
Hello?
You need to go out and come back in, maybe.
Yeah, the man is fascinated with technology, so he can do all
hearing me? I think you're getting me, right?
Yeah, sometimes right? when you're talking, it starts to be blurry, and then you start sticking. But go ahead.
Okay. So what I was saying is that the act of government should be observed by everyone in Liberia. People should act like, and I'm not yet to promote bad governance. There are ways in which people treat one another as far as the two branches of government is concerned. Nobody is saying when a lawmaker beats his wife at home, there cannot be an action taken. But these people, not only for these people sitting, or even for the future, when legislators are being elected by the people, even if they're not like in Roland Khan's case, they were upset. The court was very curious as to how to get involved in the Khan situation.
Your audio is bad, Anthony Jensen.
You need to go out and come back.
Anthony Jensen, your audio is bad.
All right, continue. All right, let's go out.
Anthony Freeman. That's exactly what I was talking, Anthony Freeman. Anthony Jensen is technology. He can do different technology to come on. So sometimes it can catch up with him. But he knows what to do. So I don't worry about him. Attorney Freeman, let's come to what they are actually charging them for. According they have some guys there in jail already, who physically, according to the IG, burned the Capitol building. But then when it comes to Councilor Kofa and the rest, they were like they sent them to do it. They paid them. Dixon Sibo was the one doing money. They had several meetings and all that. Can you actually physically tie them to this based on this kind of thing? Like, will it be a recording, or do you have, or will it be confession from those who are pleading guilty? What really can be the evidence to tie them to arson? Because I heard arson.
I really don't know because we didn't see the indictment and they haven't gone to that stage yet. But it sounded like hearsay when he was talking, you know. It sounded a lot of hearsay, but let's see how they get to court, because the way I see it, they said come and assist the investigation, right? And it appeared like it was a setup. Just so come assist the investigation. As soon as he went there, it turned into interrogation. The next thing, it turned into arrest. The next thing, and like people saying, by the time you charge, you lose jurisdiction. But because we operate the Ministry of Justice and the police like a political arm of the ruling party, that's how Liberia has always been. Any ruling party that in power, the Minister of Justice and the police is like their military wing. Anytime they have political opponent, they call the Justice Minister or the police, they say, seek it. You know, go and get that person. So, but I want to believe, because, for example, to access phone calls and other things, you will need a court order. To access people recording, you will need a court order. So, and those are things that take time, because you have to go to the judge and you have to give them probable cause of reason, convince them why you need to access this recording, or you need to access this phone record. But we only heard one day come assist the investigation. Next thing, that same day, it turned into interrogation, it turned into charges and all of that. So we don't know what evidence they have. But I know, that's why I was saying that the Gregory Coleman knows, quote unquote, he been trained at the National Police, and I understand he even went to Harvard University to learn about good governance. So he knows. But it boiled down to daily bread. Daily bread. Because if Gregory Coleman does not follow the instruction from Unity Party, the next day Gregory Coleman will not have a job. And that is the reason why time after time we see the police and the Ministry of Justice operating like the militant wing of the ruling party. But Gregory Coleman knows better. He knows that when you charge, you lose jurisdiction. So the only way you can keep that jurisdiction is not to charge and be playing within your 48 hours. But once you charge, you lose jurisdiction. But because he received political instruction, so he's going to charge. He's going to play tricks.
You are assuming that what he did.
But what they have to assume? The conduct is explicit, because if he had not received political instruction, once he charged, he will have turned the people over to the court. That's the law. So once you decide to do that, secondly, the way he brought them to the police, he said, come and assist the investigation. He didn't say come for interrogation. If you want to interrogate, he said come for interrogation. You don't say come and assist the investigation, then you turn to interrogation. So he played trick. So all that trick play and all that thing is like you the militant wing of the Unity Party. And that's what we saw when the previous guy was there. He was like the militant wing of CDC. And his job was to go after Yeke, go after Costa, and every other person who crosses the CDC. And that's how the police has been. And unless we revise the police, look, you can move that Unity Party, you put any other party, that the police will behave in the same unprofessional manner, because the structure is bad.
Thank you. Lieutenant Alfred.
Yes,
I'm talking about evidence here. I mean, what can be presented to tie Kofa and the rest to this crime? What will it look like?
So you see, what they need to do is, let me just say this, right? In my time as a detective, if you don't mind, I probably need a few more minutes to be able to explain this thing better. When I was listening to the press conference, when I listened to IG's press conference, he mentioned something about metadata. Metadata, he did something about geospatial evidence and things like that. And geospatial is much more on an intelligence level when you got intelligence for terrorism, anti-terrorism, and things like that. The one in law enforcement which we do is called geofence. It's geofence warrant. I think that's what he kind of wanted to say, but he went to geospatial. Geofence warrant is a kind of warrant. Let's take, for example, a crime happens at Sports Commission on Broad Street. The crime happened in Sports Commission in the facility. Now we look for the suspect. We look for suspect. We can't find the suspect. So what we will do is geofence warrant are more like measures of last resort. So we can't find, so we hit their ends on our investigation. We do geofence warrant. What that does is we would do it's a controversial warrant. We would type the warrant, send it to the judge. Then what we'll do is we'll do a diagram. We'll do a Google diagram of the area, because the geofence warrant is asking us to provide the information for everybody in that particular location, cell phone record, any computer, any device that was connected. And then when we get that information, then we'll send it to our tech guys. They will sift it. Then we'll send it back again to Google. Then Google will give us the phone number. Then we got to go again for the phone number we'll get that phone number. Then we got to go to the get subpoena, go to the subscriber company, the company that got that number, and ask them for the information for the person. So because of how long it is, investigators don't really do that. We wouldn't do that as a measure of last resort if we don't have a suspect and we try to see, cross our T's and dot our I's. Why am I saying this? Chief almost said the geofence, you talk about geospatial geofence thing. First thing is broad. It's broad. That's the only new thing that was introduced from the previous press conference. Because everything else he said is the same. The confession from these guys, the audio recording, the Cllr bottle. The problem yet with those things is those things do not physically connect the original suspects to the scene. And what do I mean? Take, for example, they said the guys went and bought gasoline in the morning. With the guy in the pickup bought gasoline in the morning and came to the place, to the Capitol building to burn it. So now what you do as an investigator is, okay, you trace their step. Where did they buy the gasoline? You go there and ask the person who sell the gasoline, hey, when you guys came to buy it, do you recognize this guy? Yeah, oh yeah, they came to bought gasoline for me. What kind of container they use? Oh, they one of them had a little gallon, the other person had a Cllr bottle and things like that. Oh, okay. Then you show them the Cllr bottle. Is this a Cllr bottle? Say yes. Okay, what you've done right there is you've linked the Cllr bottle on that scene. You put the Cllr bottle in the hands of the suspect because you have a witness who can put the Cllr bottle in the hand of that suspect. That's what we call physical evidence connecting the people to the crime scene. Then to enhance your evidence, to make your case stronger, you process that Cllr bottle for fingerprint, and if that fingerprint is on it, you give your case more credibility. Now you can say, yes, the person who had the Cllr bottle was the one who committed the crime. Then you test the substance in the Cllr bottle like they did with LPRC. So my point here is, so far so good. Again, I'm not privileged to the evidence, but when I talk to people, what I've learned, it does not appear like these things have happened. When they brought those guys from Minnesota, those guys said exactly what LMP wanted them to say and what the government library wanted them to try investigators. The evidence LMP has gathered, I've not seen any evidence that has physically connected any of these guys to the scene. Now, they said the guys got to the scene. They were on the scene. Yes, they're there because why they work there. Those are employees, so they went to work on their normal work thing. So they can explain their presence there. Yeah, I work here. So that's why I'm here. You can explain most of the things, the evidence LMP has, those evidence can be explained. Now they said they capture confession from those in police custody or regional suspects. The problem here is when you listen to Gregor Coleman's press conference yesterday, he was very, very qualified. He was very, very intentional with his expression. He said nobody was tortured in police custody. But guess what? There is a joint investigation. You have other agencies, you have NSA, you have all the different people involved. So yeah, nobody may have been tortured in police custody or in LMP headquarters, but what about NSA? What about the justice? What about somewhere else? So that's what you have to look at. Where the confession that you obtain, where they obtain in accordance with the law, where this guy granted due process and things like that, and Kofa as a lawyer, there will be a series of suppression hearing for this evidence that LMP has. So far so good. The charges here. The case of Gloria Scott has stronger circumstantial evidence than this burning of the Capitol building.
Thank you. Attorney Freeman, are you good now? I mean, Attorney Jensen. Sorry.
I think I'm good.
All right. So complete your thoughts. You know, we're talking about tying the evidence. The evidence tying the evidence to the lawyers. I mean, to the lawmakers.
I think the government will struggle to convict those individuals because one of the cardinal elements for arson will be malice. There must be a malicious intent, and I'm not sure that the police can actually prove whether those lawmakers were acted maliciously to burn the Capitol building. And I think that's an element that they will struggle to really, really find. And I heard trying to even attempted murder. So all of the charges, in my view, they are frivolous. I don't think to prove whether they, maliciously intended to kill or to murder people can be proven by the Liberal National Police. So it's going to be difficult for them. That's my opinion.
If I may, then
until I see evidence otherwise, yeah.
Yeah, Abu Douglas said, but the evidence could be circumstantial. It does not have to directly tie the suspect to the scene.
Dennis, if I may, real quick, to just interrupt real quick, there are two things. One thing I want to say here. When it comes to the charging of attempted murder, I believe that the reason why they're charging the guys with attempted murder is not in relation to the fire burning. It's in relation to the beating of the officer the day before. There was an officer that was beaten and left for dead. But the problem with that is, I don't know, the lawyers there can help me. I don't know if liberal law, yeah, in America, when you go rob a bank, all of you go rob a bank, and one of your partners in robbing the bank shoot somebody, you catch the murder charge too. Even though you didn't shoot, you catch the murder charge. Does that happen? Is that how it looks in liberal? Because their murder charge seems to be related to the incident before, the day before. It has nothing to do with fire. And this, if they say,
but that is not stated. That is not stated by the police.
No, it is in the original indictment, in the original statement of charges, the charge sheet. It was in relation to that because there was an officer, so sergeant that was beaten the day before and left for dead. His weapon was taken. So that's that. Now let me just make one point about the geospatial or geofence. Geofence can help LMP if they have substantive corroborated evidence. Geofence does not link people to crime, generally speaking. It only identifies potential suspects. So LMP said the people have meetings and things like that. Well, if geofence warrants post those people, a group of 5 or 6 of them in a certain area for like 4 or 5 times, and witness testimony, witness or corroborated witnesses said that this meeting was held today, and the geofence said, oh yeah, today this was the day the guys were gathered. So if geofence evidence is consistent with what the witness is providing, and the statement obtained from the witness was obtained within the confines of the law, then LMP has some strong evidence right there. So I'm not saying they don't have evidence. And the circumstantial evidence, yes, circumstantial evidence can be strong enough. But my thing is, from what I've seen, the situation with Councilor Scott Hall had much stronger circumstantial evidence than what the situation of fire is. The evidence are there, but those evidence that are there can be easily explained. They can be explained, and that's my point.
Thank you. Councilor Jayweh.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I want you to.
So I think we are asking premature questions and getting premature answers. This case, when it is taken to court, if the state decides to have the magistrate pray for a rate of arrest, for the magistrate to issue the rate and have it served on the defendant, Councilor Kofa, and others, the defendant have the right to pray the magisterial court for preliminary examination. The council can request the court to examine the pieces of evidence that they think could be linking all 5 of them, or the defendant could waive the right to preliminary examination, and the matter could travel to the circuit court for an indictment, or the Ministry of Justice can go before the grand jury or before a special jury to find whether there's a true bill, and then an indictment could be issued and a writ of arrest from the circuit court served on Councilor Kofa and 4 others that are detained today at the police station. Now, when all of that has been done and the trial date of this case is set, then there is a process under the criminal procedure law in Liberia called a discovery process, where the state will be required to exchange or to give to the defendant and the defendants and their counsel every piece of evidence that they have in their possession that led them to charge Councilor Kofa and others. So, you know, if the evidence the defense cannot be taken by surprise. The law requires that they must clearly give those pieces of evidence to Councilor Kofa and his counsels. When that has been done, and if the counsel for Councilor Kofa and others believe that the facts that led to the indictment is not sufficient to proceed, they may file a motion to dismiss the indictment based upon legal defect. But until the discovery process occurs, no one is able to tell whether the state has enough evidence or not. We are at a level of having them forwarded to court and having a writ of arrest issued, and then the process begins from there. If the defense move the magistrate court for a pre-trial hearing or a preliminary examination of the evidence, then that could be conducted before the magistrate court. If they do not want to waste their own time, they will principally waive examining the evidence and allow the matter to go to the circuit court for an indictment to be issued. So we're far from whether evidence is strong or not strong, whether it's hearsay or no hearsay. We need to wait until the writ of arrest have been issued on them. They have gone to court and the process has started. Again, at some point during the trial, there will be a discovery process. The evidence in the hands of the state would have to be given to the defense and the counsel. So we are ahead of ourselves.
Because we see what's happening already. So maybe that's
I think we have a right to discuss this matter because it's a developing story, and we know all of the criminal procedure you just laid down, Jayweh. We know those things will interplay likely beginning Monday. But one key issue for me that I really been concerned with this case was the timing of calling these people to the office and keeping them for the whole day and putting them beyond bars. We discussed so that these kinds of activity can stop. You don't program people. And then I said it, the lawyers himself should be blamed. Kofa's lawyers should have known better. The fact that they all being in Liberia, they were known that these people were off for something else.
I think that trap they set.
Yes. So the lawyers themselves should have really discovered what was on the mind of
the lawyers set the trap so they can.
The lawyers set the trap.
Yeah.
No, Dennis.
No, I don't think so.
Let me, Dennis. If again, this is to me an incompetent behavior by the defense lawyers. Knowing Liberia and knowing what happens in our court and with our system, the lawyers, I think there are about 3 or 4 of them or 5 of them. Why all of them going to the police station to look for what? They should column themselves, divide themselves into columns. One group of lawyers will either will have prepared a petition for a writ of habeas corpus proceeding, or alternatively, they will have proceeded to the Supreme Court, to the Justice in Chambers, to ask for a writ of prohibition to be kept, to be issued and served on the AG, the RG rather.
Yeah.
But why are they all sitting there at the police station? I understand Council Kofa and others were invited 9 a.m. in the morning. So from 9 a.m. in the morning to 5 p.m., lawyers are sitting down there waiting for the client to go to jail. Are those lawyers?
I think they are lawyers, but except that
what do you think happening here?
So the way to I mean, that is understood. This is not something that is happening today to Council Kofa. This is a historical occurrence on a day-to-day basis. When a criminal defendant is charged, the police people will do what they did today. So then, if you're practicing law in Liberia, you understand the politics as well as the legal part of it. You will have a petition prepared.
Yeah.
And file with the clerk of court and follow up that the justice in chamber will issue an order to prevent the RG from detaining those people. Nothing like that happened. Monday morning, all of them were dressed in black gown and go to the court. Looking for what?
Defending their camera. And to the Freeman, what you say to that? Because what I'm going to do now is, I mean, so what's going to happen next? I know Councillor Jayweh went into that a little bit. Where do we go from here? I wanted to talk about also, but I want your input before we talk about this video. Oh, sorry, Atty. Freeman, sorry, go.
I won't go into the procedure too much because that's boring stuff for the audience. But the idea is they're going to go to court eventually and sort out the preliminary issues. Probably they're going to draw up an indictment. But look, the problem is that we have a serious problem. Look, you can have a problem from 1950 to 2025. You can have the same problem for 75 years. It's an indication either you're not using your 5 senses God gave you, or your natural born intellect, you're not using it. You can have a problem from 1930 to 2025. Time in, time out, we have a police that is biased, is unprofessional, it operates as the militant wing of the ruling government. When will we pass that stage to get to a point where we get a professional police that look at the evidence and look at the standard operating procedure and just go by it? But they go there, they take instruction from the politicians, and they deny people of their rights, and we have this thing repeated. It's just yesterday when Jayweh and his people were violating people's rights all over the place. I've documented more than 200 and some more crimes committed under Jayweh, all of which went with impunity. And 75% of those crimes, the police were either a participant or the police were standing aside when those crimes were being committed. But because CDC was the ruling party, the police decided that whatever they do, they commit crimes, whatever they do, they are free to go. We got to graduate from that level. And I guess that's some of the things we come to discuss here, because the procedural aspect, they're going to go to the magisterial court, or they're going to draw up an indictment, and eventually the case is going to go to court. We'll hear the evidence. But should we have the same identical problem with the police that we had in 1920 up to 2025? Are we not growing as a people, as a society? Those are the fundamental questions we should be asking.
Lieutenant Johnson, I want you to look at this video and the different arrests being, what's going on here? And I think they said some of the citizens were resisting arrest.
So let me say this, right?
Yes,
Let me say this, right? I made a post today and everybody jumped on me, telling me all kinds of things. And it's very interesting because these were the very same people who, when I was critical of the entire Moses investigation on Jayweh and other instances, they were heaping praises on me. This entire situation, okay, the history, the backstory is that they said the CDC chairman brought 4 cars and black roads. So if he was instructed to remove the cars and he disobeyed lawful order, fine. Those are arrestable offense. He can be arrested. But now, this entire video is this entire video is a perfect example of excessive force. There's no level of force that was used in the video that is consistent or that is in line that justify. First of all, the person, let me give you something, right? When I was training in the academy, we go for something called BST, Basic Survival Training, where all the things they teach you in the academy, now you go to BST. That's the last phase where you go, the control environment, actors camp you do, you go to call for service, domestic, and different things, and evaluate you based on to determine your preparedness to hit the street. So one of my scenarios, I went on a domestic call and I arrested somebody. I did everything well, blah blah, handcuff the person, everything. But I failed the scenario. And the reason why I failed the scenario is because I didn't inform the person that they are on arrest. So if you don't inform a person that they are on arrest, then you cannot charge them for resisting arrest if they resist. You understand? The elements of resisting arrest involve you telling them, say, you are on arrest. Why am I saying this? When you look at this video right here, right, this guy is right here telling people to move according to all the move. Now he's telling people to go. Now he's about to walk. He turns it back, and LMP says to go. He's moving, right? He's moving. Then suddenly he gets hit with the shield. He hits. His hands are up. His hands are up. There is no resistance from him. There is zero resistance from him. He's being pushed. He's being beaten. He's not providing any resistance. They pull him away. There is no indication here that he was told that he was under arrest. There was no attempt from the initial contact here to put him in handcuffs. There was no attempt. The other day was trying to push it. It's almost like the objective was to inflict harm on him and then put him in the pickup before they arrest him. Everything in this video that you are showing is a perfect example of excessive force. And even one of the UPA's, Martin Cody, considered it an abuse of power, abuse of law enforcement power. When you say that people say you are supporting lawlessness, no, I'm not supporting lawlessness. I'm saying it is right to arrest him. But the entire action, the sequence of events in that video does not reflect any attempt to arrest somebody. It was simply an attempt to inflict harm, beating with ass baton and things like that. That's wrong. That's excessive force. That's why they had to release him real quick. He got released. So everything in that video is wrong. And I have a serious issue with that.
Councillor Jayweh, why all these wrong things going on?
There is one reason for that, is that in Africa, including Liberia, if the vice president or the president gives instruction to the Minister of Justice to look into this case, every professional police, someone who should be professional, from the police director down to the little arresting officer, will be all infused and overwhelmed by what the instruction that's been given to them is. As you see, the man who they were running after, hitting and doing whatsoever thing, it tells you that by doing that, it helps, the thing that helps them to be perhaps promoted by the RG somehow because they are carrying out the RG instruction that the RG received from somebody. Because if I heard that the public relation officer, which is a police lady, I think she's a press journalist, introduced the RG as Dr. Gregory Coleman. That's a big title. Dr. Gregory Coleman, not knowing that you cannot charge people and keep them in prison, tells me that that title is worthless. If you wanted to keep them, that's a way to do it. As Atty. Freeman said, you continue with your investigation. Don't charge them. But they from the police director down to the little man on the street, does not understand that when a defendant is charged, the police there and then lacks jurisdiction. Cannot put the defendant in the police cell. Can't say, take off your shoe, take off your slipper, take off your shirt, and then bundle you up into the police cells. That the defendant must be forwarded to court immediately by the time you pronounce that he or she is charged. But this is not Unity Party problem. This is a problem of Liberia that Ellen Johnson, Salita, and the police behave the same way. When Mr. Bryan was interim president, the police would behave the same way. Sawyer tried to restrain it a little bit. It didn't work. Once the instruction is passed down from the RG, The little one down there believes that this instruction comes from somewhere farther than the RG. So it must be implemented with all force and cause. Again, it's happening because nothing happened when people's rights are abused. The lawyers for those people really go to court now. They don't go to court to seek any kind of redress. Maybe the people just find money and go to hospital by themselves. But in order for it to stop, the law needs to be tested. The violation needs to be challenged as a wrong civilly before the civil law court. It needs to travel from the civil law court to the Supreme Court. Somebody pays some money in actual damages for wrong. Then people will understand, the police will understand that you are not above the law. You cannot brutalize people and act the way you act. But as it is, you will see Monday morning, all of the different lawyers will go to court with the government lawyer, and the press people will be there. They'll be taking pictures, pretending as if they're doing something. Then they will carry the client to Monrovia Central Prison, and that will be it. That's what happened in Justice Scott, Gloria Musu Scott case. There were almost 30 lawyers representing Justice Scott. What happened? She went to prison. Later on, after some time, before the Supreme Court set her free. But again, there were gross incompetence along the way during the trial. And that's what we're seeing right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are joining us, we are talking about the Funati, Kofa, and other case. If you want to be part of the discussion, please call 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403#. We have our law enforcement officer, Lieutenant Alfred Johnson. He's on the phone. We have Attorney James Jensen of Two-Way Radio, Attorney Freeman, and the senior counsel, Councilor Frederick B. Jayweh. Gentlemen, every time, even though this is a legal issue we're discussing, and every time you speak, it's like you are frustrated the way things are going. I mean, what is the way forward here? What do we do now? Let's, as we conclude.
I guess the lawyers will have to fight for the rights. But in the medium term, we have to restructure the way we do police job and the prosecution. They have to have a better independence to be able to do their job and not necessarily be vulnerable to politicians. Because, mind you, the objective of law enforcement and the objective of the politician is opposed to each other. The politician wants to make more friends and get more votes. The law enforcer wants to pursue the truth, and probably maybe it will lead to an indictment and probably a conviction. So he's not trying to make friends. So if the man who is trying to pursue the truth and trying to get an indictment and a conviction, and the other man is trying to win friends and make votes, if the man who is trying to win friends and make votes is constantly giving instruction to you who pursuing the truth, your objective will be impaired. And that is the problem with the police. We have to sit down and ask, why since Charlie Quinta, the police behave in the same identical manner over and over? It means we are not learning. We have to learn from the behavior and change the law on the police, change the law on the prosecution so that they can behave in a better manner. It can be more professional. But that has to do, maybe we have to change the statute. Okay? Or maybe we have to, introduce regulation or maybe oversight on the police. Like, for example, the complaint system at the police is overseen by police officer. So you got a case on the police and you take it to other police officer to look into it. And they look into it, they say they don't see any wrongdoing. But if you have some civilians on that council taking complaints, maybe it will work. So, but we can't continue to do the same identical thing that our forefathers did and never succeeded, and we continue to do it, and we're failing at it, but we're still doing it. It's a sign of low level of intellectual capital. Then what are we? Are we not learning personalities? Are we not learning things? That's the problem. So in the short term, let the lawyers fight for the rights, but in the long term, we have to restructure the police. We have to change the statute. We probably have to introduce new regulation. We probably have to introduce supervisory authority or complaint system that can get the police to behave. If we don't do that, we will have that same problem. We'll be changing ruling party, but we'll still be having the same bias, unprofessional police conduct.
Lieutenant Johnson.
Lieutenant
Yes.
No, Alfred.
Johnson. So let me go back to what Councilor Jayweh said. And the culture of impunity in Liberia is exactly why LMP can continue to do what they are doing. When you look at the Councilor Scott case, one of the most powerful, Councilor Scott's entire defense was that there was a male intruder. There was a male intruder. That was a defense. That's the entire defense. How can the Councilor defense be that there was a male intruder and you found male DNA on the person's body and you discard it? Make it make sense. The defense me case of there was a male intruder and you found male DNA in the body. Could you have explained the male DNA? Yeah, because there were so many men that handled the body. Why am I saying this? The person who did that person still has a job. No impunity, nothing happened. There is no level of repercussions for actions taken by people. Today, there was a video I watched earlier as it relates to a search that was conducted on Fanatic Kofa's vehicle. I think they said it was Fanatic Kofa's vehicle or something like that. You remember the search that they did on what's his name? I think it was the lawmaker man. What did they trouble love? Yeka Koruba. I think Yeka Koruba had to Costa's vehicle when they said they found a gun. You saw how all the media people were there, say you conducted some media people there, touching everything and things. That's not how you conduct search. But that happened 2 or 3 years ago. And we were very critical of that. Guess what? The same thing that happened 2 or 3 years ago when they were searching Kofa's car today, that the same process they exercise. Media people all there, contaminating evidence. So how do you expect the lack of disciplinary measure, the lack of repercussions, the lack of people being held accountable for actions is exactly what the police is, what it is today. You look at somebody beating somebody like that, and you expect us to believe that that person is going to walk free because they're not going to, nobody can hold them responsible for anything. So as a law enforcement officer, it confuses me and it concerns me when I see LMP behaving the way they behave. And people think we're just being critical of LMP. No, when they do something good, we will praise them. But the issue is you get so carried by the emotions of the moment, you allow yourself to get sucked into these things. That video of Janga Koa being beaten today under the guise of being arrested is something that should not happen in a professional body. You have enough time, you have enough level of, you have enough men to execute an arrest with the necessary level of force. You did not demonstrate anything to arrest.
Thank you. Let me bring in our callers. The first one here is Vincent Cllr. Vincent, you're live. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much for the show. You know, some of us keep saying this thing, that there probably is not corruption, that there probably is sincerity and be fair. You see, when I see people speaking, Alex, they are so fair and you're speaking in a way that is correct, it sounds so funny. When you talk about law, let the law implement. Somebody is doing wrong from the start to the middle to the end. Then you talk about law. When you see things already done wrong until the end, you do wrong. Listen, all this saga that we're going through, all this things that are happening, it came from somewhere. We got 7 months with the violation of the law. 7 good months, the violation of the laws. 7 good months. The same thing I preach about. When Jayweh Koba used to stay on the road and block the whole street, you see you really fight people, you cover him. For 6 years, the violation the opposition violating the law. Beating on people. Now they enter power. Doing the same thing. Violating law. Your Supreme Court, they all depend on. We still depend on. Supreme Court rule and say this person is wrong. You all still not make sure to implement the president. But it says the people will say, law. You see what happened in that country? We never knew that this thing that country would be there. We thought it because somebody else, they were very people. And what is happening now is worse. They even the one about that civil war in their country. What is happening is even worse than what happened. Because The people, the public abroad is the educated people. We didn't want to say educated. We are the public. Because you want job, so you plan your eye on everything. When I listen to the policeman and the second lady, one or two, talking about I can do anything. What? I can do anything. Even if a person is committed crime, he not has right to just beat on a person. Beat on a person. Commit crime. You just beat a person for what? Because you got power? I know what people honestly will be. It's so funny and it's fun. Because what we're seeing now, anybody government candidate will do the same thing. Because I'm like detention. What happened in the country? Thank you for the show.
Thank you. Next caller is Elvis Morris. Elvis, you're live.
All right. Thank you, Mr. John, and thank you to the panelists. Look, this conversation is great. You know, it's informative. But for those of us who keep warning, you know, that the ultimate end to this whole thing that President Boyka is doing is going to be chaos and perhaps eventual violence against Liberian citizens and their, you know, the security apparatus. We don't want to see this. We don't want to see it. You know, when Councilor Jayweh said something that I wanted him to give us an answer to, because as a lawyer, you said there hasn't been a writ of arrest that's been issued. So in my layman's understanding, can a person be arrested and detained without a writ of arrest? You know, I know you guys are lawyers, so you probably heard the phrase that if the law isn't on your side, you argue the process. So in this instance, the process has not been followed. So perhaps, you know, Councilor, you know, Kofa and his, you know, his co-defendants, maybe they have a slam dunk case for dismissal because you violated their rights, you didn't follow the process correctly, and this could probably lead to dismissal of any charges that's being levied against them. Well, I just want to say this is breaking news, not that it has to do with Liberia, but it has to do with us. You know, President Donald Trump has just, you know, enacted the Insurrection Act against California, taking over the National Guard. Since people are protesting in the street, he's taking that power away from the governor of California. Something he wanted to do his last term, but was held back. Now he's done it. So he's going to send the National Guard there to quote unquote, restore peace to the city of Los Angeles. So there's a lot of crazy thing going on in the world, you know, a lot of lawlessness. But I'm just begging you guys who got this platform, you keep talking to the president, because the day something hit the fan, you will be talking about how it's the worst thing that happened. They shouldn't have resorted to violence. We're still capable of violence. I don't know why people think Liberians are not capable of violence in that country. We are very much so capable of violence. The president thinks he got the security apparatus on lockdown and there's no more guns in the country. All the guns taken after the war. Trust me, it's not the case. He has to be mindful. You know, don't rule with a heavy hand. Liberia has seen it before. Every dictator that came in that country was removed through violence. And you may not think he's being a dictator right now, but he is. You disrespect the law, and then you use the law with a heavy hand to try to suppress the opposition. It's not a recipe for success. That's just my take. But thank you for taking my call, Mr. John.
Thank you. Let me take our last caller here, and that's Abu Bakar Dukle. Mr. Dukle, you're live.
Thank you, Dennis, for giving this opportunity. I want to say thank you to our learned counselors. I think you guys have explained this case very well. But I have some comments to make here. I think what Councilor Jayweh said here is right. I think if the defense, if they have a good lawyer, they can actually argue on the grounds of procedure, the manner in which these suspects were arrested. They could ask for the case to be dismissed based on that. But I also want to say here that I think this case has been politically painted from the get-go. And so all those elements come together. I don't think the police is capable of proving this case beyond reasonable doubt. I can't see them doing that from the way they went about arresting these suspects. But you have to take the context of the Liberia justice system into context here. Look, someone said that whoever is in power is in control of the justice system. That could not be any more true, because the Justice Ministry and the police, they work hand in hand. But this is supposed to be a natural organ of the government where the law applies to everybody equally. you know. So, this whole thing could have been done in a way that showed the professionalism of the police and the way they handled this whole case. I mean, how can you say the clock of the 48 hours that is mentioned in the law starts after the person is before the person is even arrested? I mean, and that's why I said in my comment, I said maybe it's about time that our chief of police, instead of always having police officer bring people and make them police officer, maybe it's about time we have lawyers who are chief of police, so that they can bring, because as a police officer, you should be there are certain things in the police that is considered rudimentary, which is that when you arrest somebody for a crime, you, the police officer, need to be fully aware of that crime and the procedure related to that crime in terms of how you arrest that person and how you bring that person to justice. Someone was talking about how they were not told their own arrest. In other cases, or in particular cases, they will be, reading the Miranda rights of the suspect, which is enshrined in the Constitution. So all of these things they are considered to be elementary things that every police officer should know. And so we need to start doing things differently from the way we're doing, like Councilor said earlier. We can't be doing one thing 75 years ago and still want to do it and expect different results. So if our justice system, particularly the way our police are trained. And the gentleman from the gentleman from Maryland, the police officer there, he just said things that people learned in your first day of police academy. Things that you're supposed to do, things that you're supposed to know. How do you come up with reasons to keep somebody in prison beyond the time prescribed by the law, etc. All these things. So I just want to throw in these comments, and I want to thank you, Dennis, and I want to thank our learned counselors for the illumination out on this subject tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. That's all the calls we have tonight. Gentlemen, I want to come back to you so that we can wrap this up. I think we've said enough. You're closing. Let me start with Anthony Freeman. We go to Lieutenant Alfred Johnson, Anthony Freeman, and then Councilor Jayweh will close. Anthony Johnson.
Firstly, let me make a low point of correction here, respectfully, and that was Councilor Jayweh when he said that the suspect, the police has no right to hold a suspect. Not necessarily the party, Kofa and others, but the police has some level of holding suspect after charges for purpose that either they have not been bailed or for reason that the pre-trial detention, let us assume, not for them, but let us assume that you have some suspect that were of flight risk. They could be held by the police pending trial. So that's a pre-trial detention. And for the initial holding, the police normally will hold suspect even after charges are leveled against them. And for the purpose of the entire discussion for tonight, I maintain strongly that there are two equal branches of government, the executive and that of the legislature. To arrest a member of the legislature, there are procedural steps that should be taken into consideration. That is called good governance. You don't just get up because you hold something by a lawmaker, you go and arrest them. When these procedures are not followed, if we sit on public forum like this and say police has all right to go and arrest people, the Constitution specifically outlines what charges or what act that may be committed by any lawmaker for which they could be charged. But assuming even that is a situation, there are procedural steps so that our democracy can cherish and that people can respect the law. And for the lawyers who are representing these clients, we think sometimes it's for them to step ahead of the game. Police normally will have a piece of job to be done, whether they do it rightly or not. That's why you have lawyers that represent clients. So that if Kofa was properly guarded, in my view, he wouldn't have faced the current situation he's faced with. Lastly, the police should respect officials of government. If the act of bail was what the police was looking at, these people personal reconnaissance, the police should have respected that and granted them leave or gave them up to their lawyers. so that they could return to court on Monday, rather than putting them behind bars and waiting up to Monday.
Thank you. Lieutenant Johnson.
As always, it's always a good opportunity to have this informative conversation. You always learn things about Liberia and Liberians, and I hope my contribution as always. I hope my contribution inspires people. I hope I give people an opportunity to learn things. As always, thank you for the time.
If your contribution is not good, I will not call you back.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you to everybody, Councilor Jayweh, Anthony Freeman, Anthony Jensen. Thank you for the opportunity and the time.
It was a pleasure talking with you too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Attorney Freeman. Attorney Freeman, yeah.
And I can see that, this is a critical case, and I can see that we will be discussing it as the case evolves. But right from the get-go, we can see the level of unprofessionalism. Firstly, from some of the comments made by the Inspector General, it didn't sound like any serious investigation, and a lot of things I heard that sounds like hearsay. But probably during the course of the trial, we'll see how that shapes up. But the police and the Ministry of Justice, they have a problem. They operate as the militant wing of the ruling party. That is not their job. Their job is the disinterested application, enforcement of the law. That's their job. Okay, but if they're going to take the instruction from the politicians, they will almost always be wrong, and they will be operating from political motives. What can we do? First, probably we start with the police complaint system. We need to embed some civilians into the complaint system, because right now this complaint system they have at the police, you take your complaint to other police officer and tell them other police officer have violated your rights, and they just turn around and say they don't see any problem. So as a result, you cannot correct it through the professional complaint system. You have the LMP Act, which they revised in 2016, but they left the political control of law enforcement to politicians. And so politicians just put the stooges at the police for them to be pulling them like some puppet and telling them what to do. If we don't change the way we do policing and prosecution in terms of the way the politicians control those institutions, then it's come by here 25 years, we'll still be discussing the same problem. And that would be an indication that we are not progressing as a people, because when you are progressing, you're supposed to have new problems. That's a sign of progress when your problem is changing. But if you have problem with police in 1920, 1950, you got problem with police. 1970, you got problem with police. 1980, 1990, 2000, 2025, you got problem with police. It's an indication that you are not growing intellectually, you are not progressing. So we have to do these things. We have to change the law. We have to change the system, and then things will change. So I would like to end on that note.
Thank you. I want to introduce something because I watched a little clip and it's unrelated to what we're talking, but it got me troubled. And this came from a lawyer. And I want to play that because I have nowhere else to insert this segment. I wanted to do a expose just myself, because I did not believe that somebody will be talking like this in 2025. This is Councilor Per Brown Bull. Listen.
No volume.
No audio.
They haven't done that. They haven't done that. You see, he walked in there with his PhD, with his pride and dignity. Walking there with his pride and dignity. And he came up walking up with his pride and dignity. And now it was burned by now hooligans. That's what the president said. For heathens, ungodly, uncircumcised heathens. They want us to go back to another Cllr tree and the Palawa tree. It will not happen. Because it hurt my heart. Richard Henrys. Them they signed, they went there. I got a picture with Toba, Richard Henry, and Mr. Mesco. Damn heathens. Barbarous country.
So for you, where are we going, Council?
I didn't see what I got to say.
Councilman,
My
if you
family
listen
told
today-
me, I told y'all I will comment after Supreme Court make a ruling.
Okay.
Yeah, the Supreme Court ruling in that case.
But the
After
house can
Supreme Court-
legitimize what
What
the action-
Supreme Court say, we say illegitimate. Y'all who went to school can read and y'all can read. All the good books with Doris Henrys and Richardson. Why y'all take to the war? Y'all went and burned it, use it for coal and clean your bunga.
All right. Hidden that he used, this is a coded word that was used before. So why is Councillor Pearl Brown Booth talking like this in the 25th, in 2025? I don't want you to answer that. Think about that. That's another show. Councillor Jayweh, you're closing.
You know, I want to say one or two things as I close. My concern is not whether Councillor Kofa and the 4 other representatives were arrested and charged. My concern is the police IG, after publicly announcing that Councillor Kofa and others were charged with arson, attempted murder, and other crimes, the police lost jurisdiction. And therefore, the police should have forwarded Councillor Kofa and those charged over to the Monrovia City Court for a writ of arrest to be issued. Secondly, I want to add here that the police station got no authority to receive bond to release any defendant. They will investigate. If they find that a defendant has committed a crime, they will charge him and forward him or her over to the court. It is the court that will receive a bail bond. If the police trust that, the counsel for the defendants will return with the client as scheduled. The police may grant a request from the defendant to ensure that they go home with the lawyer and come back as the investigation continues. But as it stands, this case is a troubling case from the starting. I'm not sure whether President Bouaka wants his government to be seen where his RG does not understand anything about the law, where he will charge citizens of Liberia. I don't care whether they are representatives. They are citizens first. Charge a citizen of Liberia. And then wait for from 9 to 5 p.m. to commit them to the police cell. That's pretty much unconstitutional. As to the merit of the case, as I said, there is a process. There will be a writ of arrest. There will be a formal writ of arrest. Perhaps a pre-trial detention, a preliminary examination of the matter will go on, or an indictment will go on, and there will be a discovery process. That is when it can be determined whether the state has evidence to convict the defendant or not. My advice is that President Bouaka and his government should ensure that the Ministry of Justice and everyone else in this case follow the law. Stay politics out of it. Follow the law. Prosecute the defendant if they are committed arson, as I said. They should be prosecuted fairly. They should be allowed their rights in court, their day in court. And let's stop this attitude of someone has said the police director should act and the president should act. I believe the police director understands nothing about the law when it comes to after charging a defendant. I believe that. And I think that we should get involved with having more training to ensure that the police have enough for training. I will also advise that the Minister of Justice assign a prosecutor within the police station, that prosecutor will be a seasoned lawyer that the police can consult as to how to proceed. I don't believe the IG understands what it is and what he has done. This is unfortunate.
Unfortunate indeed is how Councillor Jayweh described it. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. I really appreciate you coming on because I informed you today and you were here to discuss this very important issue. Always, I mean, you can get this anywhere else, but focus on Liberia where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Again, want to thank our viewers for watching. Join us and check this out on all major social media platforms. Until then, we close with our song that says, whether you believe the IG is incompetent or he's doing his job, we are all Liberians. Have a good night and God bless you.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.